Welcome to another episode of Vacation Adventures. I'm your host, Denise Poliquin from Worldwise Travel. We've got a very special episode happening today, and I'd like to introduce my guest, Seth Resler from Taste Trekkers.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for flying all the way in from California just to be here.
You know, I used to live here. I used to live in Providence for many, many years, and so it's a treat to come back.
Excellent, excellent. So tell me a little bit about Taste Trekkers. The name is interesting.
So Taste Trekkers are foodies who travel. People who plan their vacations or plan their trips around food. So if you're the type of person who, when you find out where you're going, that you're going on a trip, the first thing you do is say, well, where do we eat? I want to know what restaurants we're going to, or I want to go visit the vineyards, or anything like that. Then you're a Taste Trekker. If you've ever looked for the best barbecue joint in the South, if you've ever gone to Napa Valley for the wine, if you've ever, done anything like that, you're just looking for the best pizza, the best deep dish in Chicago, you're a Taste Trekker.
Right. So. That's awesome. That is very cool. So you're here for this particular weekend because there is a convention in Providence going on. It's the Taste Trekkers convention?
It's the 2014 Taste Trekkers Food and Travel Expo.
Okay.
And this is our second year doing it.
Right.
We did it last year in Providence. We came up with such a great time, we decided to come back and do it again. And this is really an event for foodies who travel. It's a 3-day event. The first day is Industry Day, so that's for anybody who works in the food or travel or tourism industry. Second day is Foodie Day, that's Saturday, October 4th, that's happening at the Providence Biltmore. And that's really an opportunity to taste foods from all over the country and all over the world, and really learn a bit about the history. So if you're a person who likes to talk about food, and I think we've all seen those, we all have friends like that who, when you get together with them, they're gonna talk about some meal that they had recently. We're gonna give you a lot to talk about.
That's great.
And then on the final day, Sunday the 5th, we're going to do a big scavenger hunt in Down City, Providence. So.
Well, I understand exactly what you're talking about. I've, as being a travel agent owner, have a lot of people that will come to me when they've booked their trip, and the first thing they'll say, do you know of a great restaurant in Chicago? Do you know of a great place in London? Where's the best place to get pasta in Italy, that sort of situation. And it is difficult to know about all of these different restaurants and where these things are. And I think this is a little bit of what Taste Trekkers provides, a little bit of the service that they do.
Yeah, we found that there was a need for that, and I think that's something that we're really trying to fill. You go to the travel guides, your typical travel books that you walk into your bookstore, and you see the Rick Steves and the Fedors and the Frommers, and they're fantastic books. I've used those when I've traveled, but they're focused on travel, and they'll have a little section on food. And then you go to something like Yelp, and Yelp is fantastic if you know exactly what you want. If you say, I'm in downtown and I want an Ethiopian restaurant that delivers right now, Yelp is your place to go. But if you are sitting there going, I've never been to Chicago, and I'm going for the first time, what are the places that I really need to try? Yelp will say, well, here's 30,000, which ones do you want? And so I think we wanted to come in with some suggestions and say, look, here's the background, here are the places. And we're not just restaurants. Taste Trekkers is really about everything from farmers markets to sort of the quintessential dishes that you need to try when you go to a specific place. We'll tell you that when you go to Chicago, you got to do deep dish. When you go to Philly, you got to try a cheesesteak, and you got to try a Cuban sandwich when you're in Miami. So it's really about all of that and the intersection of food and travel.
That's excellent. That's perfect for the show that we're doing. I know you brought a couple of little pictures with you, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Okay. So we bought a number of photos from last year's Expo so that people can see it.
Right.
So this is the young woman who has wound up on all of the Taste Trekkers slides.
She's kind of your logo now.
Yes, right. If you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, this is what you'll see.
Yep.
But in this shot here, our first day, like I said, is Industry Day. Is really, we're doing it at Johnson & Wales University this year at the Yana Center, and they've been a fantastic partner for us. And it's such a great culinary school that it made perfect sense to do it there. Yeah.
Perfect. Right.
So what's happening is, like I said, it's for professionals in food or travel or tourism. And we're going to start with a series of 10-minute talks on all sorts of different subjects. We have somebody coming in to talk about culinary travel writing. We have somebody to talk about kitchen incubators. Actually, Lisa Rayola from Hope in Maine.
Kitchen incubators?
Yeah,
That's
so kitchen incubators, if you've ever heard of the concept of a business incubator, it is for entrepreneurs who are starting up who are not yet ready to have their own office, but they need a space to hold meetings and to work, and so they pay rent and they buy into a particular workspace that they can use during certain hours. Well, a kitchen incubator is the same thing, but for entrepreneurs who are in the baking space or the cooking space. You know, a lot of times it's food trucks who need a place to cook before they go out on their truck, or people who are trying to get, you know, artisanal food producers who are trying to get a product up and off the ground. And a great one is just opening up in Warren, Rhode Island, called Hope in Maine.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so a fantastic project that they've been working on. And so they're a big partner of ours this year, and a lot of their incubees, they're called, are going to be in the Expo in our tasting pavilion. And Lisa Raiola, who's one of the founders, is going to be speaking at Industry Day and talking about, you know, what a kitchen incubator is and what the history of it is, this particular project. And it's a fascinating story. So a series of 10-minute talks on all sorts of topics. And after that, we do a panel discussion on food tourism. And actually, in our next slide, I think you can see. Oh, this is the mayor, Angel Taveras, from the city of Providence. Yep. I just love this shot because I love the way you can take photos of all the food you want. You can post it to Instagram. But he actually introduced our expo last year, and I assume he had a good time because I heard him use it on his campaign trail. You know, I heard him talking about it. So, but I think in this next photo that we've got here, yeah, this is the panel discussion that we led last year. And we're doing it on Industry Day this year. So we held a panel discussion on the topic of food tourism. What is food tourism? And gathering a number of people from, you know, both food tour operators, a lot of people who work at convention and visitors bureaus, so a lot of people who are working in the destination marketing space. Right. Because that's something we've seen a lot of destination marketing professionals, people whose job it is to get people to come to a location. And people are starting to realize that food is a great way to do that, that you know, you can attract people to a location with food, and so they're showing off the cuisine they have in their region, and you know, not just the restaurants, but the farmers markets, or the farms, or the artisanal food producers, or the wineries, or the breweries.
That's very. And as you were saying, we all need to eat, so
we do.
Not eat well.
I do it at least 3 times a day.
So why not eat well?
Right. Yes.
No matter where you are, right?
Yeah. So this will be led by Gail Ciampa, who's the food editor of the Providence Journal. Okay. She led it last year and did a fantastic job. And we're going to have a number of, again, food tour operators, convention and visitors bureaus folks, and different professionals in there. One of them is Shane Cost, who runs Food Tour Pros, which is in Chicago. So Shane started his own food tour company in Chicago almost 10 years ago at this point, and it took off, and it's one of the bigger food tour companies in the country now. Now, that's not that big. Food tour companies, you compare it to Google, it's, you know, I think we're probably talking 20 or 30 people, but within this budding industry of food tour operators, he is really good at it. He's been doing it for a long time. And so we started a second company called Food Tour Pros to teach other people how to be food tour operators and how to launch their own food tour business. So we're really excited to have him this year and talking about and bringing his expertise to the panel and talking about how to do this, because he's trained at this point dozens of food tour operators, maybe even hundreds, you know, throughout the world. So the panel discussion is what's happening on Friday.
Okay. Yep.
And then we conclude with a networking reception over at the Dorrance, which is just known for its fantastic cocktails and mixology, and they're doing a lot of exciting
Fast
stuff.
foods, I would assume.
Yes. And I love that space.
Yeah.
I love what they've done with that, renovating that in downtown Providence.
Yeah.
So, and then on the next day, I think the next photo is, so this is Chef Jose Duarte from Boston. This guy is amazing. So one of the things I do for Taste Trekkers is I host a podcast. I'm a former radio guy, and so I love to.
With I think local connections.
Correct? Yeah. I actually used to run. I started at WBRU when I was a student at Brown University in Providence, and then came back to run it as the professional program director. And so I was putting together a lot of events like the WBRU Summer Concert Series in downtown Providence, things like that. Yeah. So once you have broadcasting in your blood, it's hard to get it out. So I still podcast. We actually just released our 100th podcast episode. Started with interviewing a lot of food bloggers, and the concept behind the podcast was, hey, I've never been to Memphis. Tell me about your local food scene. You know, I've never been here or there or other places. And eventually started interviewing chefs and started interviewing, you know, we interviewed the head of food tourism for the country of Ireland around St. Patrick's Day. We interviewed the James Beard Foundation right before the James Beard Awards. A number of James Beard Award winning chefs have been on, and authors, and a couple of filmmakers, and it's been a lot, really exciting to do. And like I said, we just released our 100th episode. We had Chef Jose Duarte from Toronto in Boston's North End on recently.
Very nice.
And why this guy is so amazing is he leads culinary expeditions into the jungles of Peru.
Oh, wow.
Which is where he's from.
Oh, my gosh.
And he does it for families with children. I mean,
Really?
he came back and he told us about these, you know, I mean, you just bring 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, you know, 12-year-olds out, and they're out among the tarantulas and all the, you know, and they're in the jungle learning about the food there.
The local food so they can eat.
Yeah. And
should they get stranded in the jungle?
Right, yeah, you know.
Right.
So his stories are really exciting. I mean, this guy, he's doing a lot of cutting edge stuff in a lot of ways. You know, his restaurant is you know, green in many aspects, and he's been leading a lot of that. And so we're really excited to have him come speak this year.
That's
he was on
a
our
very
panel
unique
last year.
concept of what he's doing.
Yeah,
Bringing,
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
that
And
is different.
he does Peruvian and Italian fusion in Boston's North End, his restaurant. So so he's fantastic. And then we've got another slide here. This is the Biltmore, which is where obviously everything happens on Saturday, October 4th. So that's our foodie day.
Okay.
So industry day, Friday the 3rd.
Yep.
You know, if you work in the business. But then on the 4th, this is for everybody. This is for the general public. So if you are a foodie, if you know, want to try foods from different places around the country and around the world, this is the day for you. And
So your vacation venture could be going to the Biltmore.
Yes.
And tasting food from everywhere.
Yes. But then hopefully you'll find a new place to go. And you know, as we book the speakers and the people who are showcasing there, I kind of look for two things, or one of two things. I kind of look for either things that are feasible. You actually might go on a vacation there. So we have Vermont. We have Durham, North Carolina, who's only an hour flight away. New York City, things like that. But then if we're going to do someplace that you're not going to go, or it's less likely that you'll go, we can do something that you're really not going to go. So we did a session on chocolate from Madagascar last year. We have somebody coming in to speak about New Zealand this year. You know, so let's go someplace far away and exotic. So you'll find both there. And I think
you mentioned that this person is actually flying in all the way from New Zealand.
Yeah, all the way from New Zealand.
That's
so
great. Do you know what they're bringing?
I don't. Hobbit, I think. I'm not sure. And I think this next slide here. This is Chef Saison Curry, who is from Los Andes here in Providence, and he specializes in both Bolivian and Peruvian cuisine, which if you haven't been to Los Andes,
I have not.
it's fantastic. And I'm a big fan of his, and his whole family runs the restaurant. And I remember when it was him and his brother, and they had just started out, because they've only been around for 5 or 6 years, but the place has grown tremendously since then. The first time I ever had ceviche, it was from him, and he taught me about it, and just amazing. They're actually working on opening up an entire bar that's just a ceviche bar.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he's another one. This is one of those guys that he's a rock star. You know, and I think this is what you're seeing. I mean, you know, like I said, I worked in radio, I worked in alternative rock stations, and I was there through the 90s when you saw a lot of these bands explode. And I look at what's happening in the food world, and chefs are the new rock stars. You know, they really are. And there's a lot of just budding talent, and to me, he's an upcoming rock star. But he's going to be speaking about Bolivian and Peruvian cuisine. I think he's running a session on ceviche this year. He ran one last year. This is him running it last year, and he's amazing to hear talk. You know, I could listen to him for hours. So
you get to try this food without actually having to travel.
Yes.
There, although now you're going to be intrigued to want to go and have more.
Once you do this.
Most definitely.
Once you do this.
Most definitely.
And I think we've got another photo here. Yeah, this is more of the ceviche, him putting it together. And the ceviche, for people who don't know, is
the raw fish?
It's the raw fish,
Right, okay.
which essentially is cooked in the lime juice. I mean, not cooked by applying heat, but
Right.
it's like a chemical reaction with the
Right.
with the lime juice that puts it in there. And
I remember the first time I had it was in Costa Rica, and I was like, "Are you sure?"
right, and that was how
Are
I felt when I
you
first had it. But
sure?
it was amazing. Oh, I love it. I would definitely go back for more.
And is it different? So we must make it with different flavors, with different juices.
All
or
sorts
the
of different
base
ways
is
to
the
do it.
lime,
Yes,
and
yes.
then everything.
And he'll walk through and talk
Yeah,
about
and
how
obviously
to do it.
the different
So-
fishes will taste. The different fish will give it a different flavor.
Which
as
means
well.
if you come from different places, it'll be slightly different.
Yeah.
So, and that's a lot. You know, the word for that is terroir, which really means it's about how the geography, how the place influences the flavors and the food. And so we'll do a lot of sessions about that. You know, talking about, and it sounds like a fancy word, but that's all it really means is that, you know, not everything is the same everywhere. that place influences food. So,
Yeah, definitely. Well, again, you know, some folks will be, gosh, you know, everything was so different. The food tasted so different there. I didn't expect that.
Well, and that's what we're looking
to
for.
educate, you know,
I mean,
folks
this
that,
is
yeah, it
for
will.
adventurous eaters. If you are the type of person who, when you're in Paris, you go to McDonald's because that's what you know.
Right.
This isn't the event for you. This is for people who want to, you know, have an authentic experience, want to have something that really reflects the place, and you know, we want to show you how to do that. So. I think we've got another slide here. Oh, yes, we did a butchery demo last year.
Oh, my gosh.
We have a whole session on called From Plate to Pasture this year, and because the butchery demo was so popular last year. And this is Lisa Webster, who runs North Star Sheep Farms up in Maine, comes in and helps out with this.
Really?
Oh, yeah, it's yes. I think this is Champ Spitell from Persimmon, which is a fantastic award-winning restaurant here in Rhode Island, who came in, and somebody was telling me who went to this session last year that he just walked in and just, you know, threw it down and pulled out his sauce and started, you know, carving into it, and that it was amazing to watch.
I bet it would be, because,
So-
you know, a lot of us think you get your meat all from just these little packages that appear in the supermarket.
Yeah,
And
no,
don't
that's
know the chops
not
from
where it
the
comes from. So-
whatever.
But we have entered a realm where, you know, I mean, I was up in San Francisco, and it was a Tuesday night, and I was watching a butcher, you know, and there were 40 other people who also came to watch this butcher, you know, butcher some pork and a pig. And I remember thinking to myself, boy, this has changed, because when I was growing up, the butcher was sort of, you know, Sam's boyfriend on the Brady Bunch. And it was not something that you went and did and watched as a spectator sport. But I think that's really where food is these days, that I think
Right.
people are watching.
It's a whole experience. You know, it's not just something to
Absolutely.
keep us alive. It's the flavors, the aromas, the textures, everything. Just yeah.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, gosh.
We've got another slide here. Oh, yes, this is a big fan of this. So on the, this is Frank Martucci, who is with the glasses and the mustache, who is, he works over at Twin River, and the casino, and
Yep.
he also is the vice president of the United States Bartenders Guild. So and he's actually been a fantastic proponent of mixology and the mixology scene, cocktail making scene here in Rhode Island. He's really done a lot for it, and he's a friend and done great things. So last year he teamed up with Brent Ryan from Newport Storm, and they did a session on Thomas II rum. Single barrel rum made right here in Rhode Island,
Right.
and sort of the history of it. And they're both speaking again this year. I believe they're both speaking on Industry Day, doing 10-minute talks. So again, two people that did a fantastic job, and we're excited to have them back. So
Great.
should be great. Let's
And
see.
you only do this in Rhode Island at this moment.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think eventually we would like to do a couple more of these throughout the country. But, you know, we did it in Providence. To be honest, you know, I mean, I'm living out in California these days, but had lived in Providence. Had spent 11 years of my life in Providence. And when it came time to do this, I originally looked at Boston or San Francisco, and actually was listening to a podcast, because I run my own podcast about food. I was listening to somebody else's and heard Kristen Adamo from the Providence and Warwick Convention and Visitors Bureau, who is, like I said, she's the woman behind Restaurant Weeks in Providence, and we are seeing this more and more. People at Convention and Visitors Bureau, people in destination marketing, who are using food to try and get people, use it as a draw to attract people to our city. And she's really been a champion for that in Rhode Island. and I heard her being interviewed, and I literally had kind of one of those moments where you face palm yourself, and you're like, oh, of course I should do this in Providence, because the food scene here is so great, and there's so many exciting things happening with Johnson & Wales University, with the Culinary Museum here, with the restaurants. I mean, you've got the history of Federal Hill, and then you have all these new restaurants, this new crop in the last decade that has really elevated the game here in Rhode Island, and Rhode Island's been recognized by Travel and Leisure magazine, and so I just think that the food scene is really vibrant and really exciting here. So it made a lot of sense. But this is also, again, something I think we're seeing all over the country, is that it's not just about San Francisco and New York City and New Orleans. That while those places have obviously legendary food scenes, that you can go to a Durham, North Carolina, a Portland, Oregon, or a Portland, Maine, smaller cities, and have a fantastic food scene that really reflects the local culture and the local geography, and it's just really exciting.
Right. Did you bring any others at all with you?
Let's see what else we got here. Yes. So these, I just love some of the visual images. I mean, this is I think a rum punch that they were working on for that seminar.
Sounds good.
And this next one, there's the finished
punch.
product. So yes. So they put it together. So it's not just about food, but it's also about drink.
Yeah.
And I think you'll learn a lot. We're doing a session on wine from Spain this year and other things. Right. And this next slide, this is Davide Duksevic, who is the founder of Daniele Foods, which is one of the big food success stories here in Rhode Island. And he does a lot of prosciutto and other deli meats. And he led a session for us last year. He's amazing. We have a lot of food entrepreneurs. We talked about that idea with the kitchen incubator, and he's really one of the success stories. I think this next photo is. Yeah, there he is. Him carving up, and he, leading a session on prosciutto. Sure. So, and then next here, you got all sorts of samples.
Nice.
And this is a great place to eat, really.
Well, yeah.
So
it really is.
Saturday begins with a series of 10-minute talks, and then they go into sessions. Those sessions are longer, in depth, 3 rounds of sessions. People get to choose which sessions they want to go to, and they. This is your chance to taste. This is your chance to hear some of the history, and then after that, we go back into a tasting pavilion. Where there's dozens of tables set up, and local restaurants and food producers and breweries and wineries, and so it's really people's chance to try a lot of the foods. So that's
that's everybody
it right there, right? And this is it's really a great chance to talk to everybody there.
And it's nice to know, because living here, that you have such variety of food and restaurants available to us. So close by. Yes,
you really do. And really in the tasting pavilion, I think that's what shows off a lot of the local foods and the local food producers and the local restaurants. And Rhode Island, I think, in particular, has started to recognize how important food is and could continue to be to its economy. I mean, I think
so even if folks can't make it to this particular convention this year, they can still go out and sample all these wonderful experiences that we have in this area close by. And if they want to go to Madagascar to get chocolate,
and frankly, I think it supports the economy to do so. I mean, I think that this is a real, and you're starting to see people really recognize this. I mean, like I said, Mayor Taveras was talking about this, while he was out on his campaign, and Congressman Jim Langevin, has been a big proponent of this. You're starting to see Dave Tadakian, who runs Eat Drink RI, which is the biggest food blog here in the state, received a grant so that he could put together a great market here in the state of Rhode Island, to similar to what they have in Seattle or the Ferry Building in San Francisco. And I think that this could be a real economic force. I mean, I think it plays into the strengths that the state already has. I think we've tried some things economically that it didn't fare as well as people had hoped. But I think that this really could take advantage of a lot of the natural resources that are here. So.
Right. In nearby Massachusetts, of course, Seekonk.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. This next so Farmstead, which unfortunately we lost to Massachusetts. Matt Jennings, one of our great chefs, who was also our keynote speaker last year, but has won a lot of accolades. But he has returned to Boston, which is where he's from originally. He's opening up a restaurant there. But we were fortunate enough to have him last year. So this is his display. And this next slide here. Again, you're going to see foods from everywhere.
Is that sushi?
That's sushi. That's 10 steak
That
and
is
sushi.
huge. Everybody seems to love sushi.
You know, I had a boss in St. Louis of all places, which is not where you think you'd go for great sushi.
Right.
Who loved sushi, and we would go out. You know, and anytime we had a business dinner, it would be sushi. So that was where I really learned to like sushi. So.
I haven't quite acquired that taste, but you know, your taste buds change.
Yes.
So they're always evolving.
And again, this is the time if you're a foodie who likes to travel, to talk to people, discover new destinations, discover new places to go. And you know, I want people to know that we are also. It's not just the Expo. Taste Trekkers is really much bigger than that and beyond that. I mean, the website that we run at tastetrekkers.com is really a place for people to discover new places that they want to go for cuisines. And so we have guest writers from all over not just the country, but the world, writing about, you know, cuisines from certain places. So if you want to know where to have brunch in Montreal, you know, or you want to know, you know, what foods you need to eat when you're in India, you know, come and take a look. And like I said, I host the podcast, so.
That's great, yeah.
So,
and is it just tastetrekkers.com that they,
tastetrekkers.com, yep.
that these folks can find
yeah,
out?
that you can
and
find
listen to the podcast, or they
listen to the
continually
podcast.
run?
People don't know how to listen to a podcast. Podcast is a very intimidating word, so I'll make it easy. Download the Taste Trekkers app,
Okay.
right? and that is the podcast, and you'll be able to listen to it. So yeah, just download the Taste Trekkers app.
Yeah.
You can find all the interviews that we've conducted there, and like I said, there's over 100 at this point.
Wow.
So yeah, but if you're a foodie who travels,
That's
a lot.
perfect spot to go.
This is Foolproof Brewery. They are back again. They're actually one of the sponsors of our cocktail reception that we're doing at Industry Day. Great local. The brewery scene in Rhode Island and the Massachusetts area has really exploded. I mean, just in the last couple of years, it's amazing
all
what's
the
happened.
little craft beers and even the vineyards too.
Yeah. Seconded Vineyard is was there last year. We'll be there again this year. So yeah, a lot of really
Probably
exciting stuff.
Newport, Westport, maybe.
Fantastic.
I know, all of them.
Yeah. Speaking
And
of,
some of
there
the-
they are. You know, Seconded Vineyards, showing off a lot of their wines. The Rhode
Good
Island
old Rhode
Red.
Island Red and
Yep.
yeah.
A lot of great wines there. This next slide. This is Narragansett Creamery.
Oh,
so
okay.
if you like cheese and you want to
Very
learn about
much so.
cheese, this is
Very much so.
a great place to learn. This next slide here is the Biltmore, where we're
Okay.
doing it, but it's also at downtown Providence, because Sunday, October 5th, we're doing something new this year, which is a scavenger hunt throughout the city of Providence. So people will gather at the Arcade Providence, get a lot of clues, and have to go around to all these eating destinations throughout the city, and the first team back with they have to take a selfie in front of each of those places, and the first team back wins a prize worth hundreds of dollars.
That sounds amazing. Well, I love this. This is great. Please want to hear more of what you're going to be doing. I've heard some other ideas that you've got, so we'll just have to have you come back again. But for everybody, if they're around this weekend, go to Taste Trekkers in the Convention Center, and if not, just go enjoy wonderful food in Rhode Island and Massachusetts.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here, Seth. Take care.